Good evening. My name is Ekta Sodha. I come from India, from a state of Gujarat, a small district of Jamnagar in a coastal town. In 2005, I was absolutely confident that I was going to London College of Fashion to become a fashion designer. When I announced it, my parents said, "There's no way we will get you an educational loan. We run a school. If at all you want to study education, you will go to England to learn education." And I thought to myself, how hard can it be to find London College of Fashion away from Newcastle University? Hardly half an hour. And I will go and subscribe to a fashion degree once I go there on an educational loan from my parents to study education. Little did I know this is not how life works. And 12 years later, I will talk to you about my educational journey. It's widely believed that people from socioeconomically challenging areas and emerging economies have low expectations, but certainly no low expectation when it comes to their children's education. This is small town Jamnagar from the slums, some of the Snapshots. Here's a fruit and veg market in the slum. And between these three people, who are my parents, they send about 18 children to my school. Another shot of Jamnagar. The person sitting on the floor and the gentleman on the right in white clothes with a cap, they are also my parents. Between them, I have 5 to 6 children coming to my school. Here is another example. A village called Chela, roughly about 20-25 kilometers away from Jamnagar. This boy gets up at about 5 in the morning to get to school at about 7:30. His surroundings? Another boy from the same village. It's not as if there are no government schools around. This is the Chela Girls' School, which says, "Let's all educate, let's all progress." And that's the Chela Boys' School. It's pretty obvious why you wouldn't want to go there. There were no direct transport links between the village of Chela and Jamnagar, so a parent, quite entrepreneurial, rounded up others, funded a diesel auto rickshaw, and started bringing children first thing in the morning to school at about 7:30. Another village called Changa in Morkanda. It's probably illegal to travel in this size in an auto rickshaw, but they all come to school first thing in the morning. According to Professor Tuley, The Beautiful Tree, 2009, poor parents in developing countries are choosing low-cost private schools in huge numbers. Let alone the number of school-going children in India is thrice the population of Germany. If you will look at data, rural education in India is on constant rise. In 2016, over 33% of children go to low-cost private schools in the rural areas. If you were to look at government schools with 50 pupils or fewer, it's on the rise at about 400,000 schools across India, which is staggering. And if you look at value for money, calculated based on learning outcomes and per pupil expenditure in government schools, low-cost private schools deliver 5.3 times value for money. Although standards in private schools are higher, but they're not high enough. So what can be done? Let me take you to the history of Sodha schools. In 2011, I got a desperate call from my mother saying that if you do not come back to India now, leave your PhD, and rescue the schools, your father, what he dreamt in the late 80s, is going to come to an end. So I thought, I'll go back. It's a Christmas vacation. I'll do a quick turnaround and come back and finish my PhD. Schools had become dysfunctional. Parents were leaving us. Students were leaving us. Teachers were being poached. The infrastructure didn't look great. There were no improved facilities, no technology, no educational model. Basically, we were about to shut down. So I did what any good leader would do. I called my staff and I gave a really long feel-good lecture and I said that, guys, how many of you are with me through this change? And guess what happened? Nobody raised their hand. Anyhow, as we say in India, bash on regardless. I put the first hoarding out saying, Sodha schools, we're changing. Not having any clue to where to start from, I started with teacher training. According to Professor Mitra, there are places on earth where good teachers do not want to go to. So what do? Do you simply abandon these children? Certainly not. We wanted a pedagogy that would work for these rural schools of my parents and build on some work there. So I was in Newcastle in 2008, all charged up to start my PhD. I went to see Professor Mitra and I said, what should I do for my PhD? As his answers are to most questions, he said, I don't know. He said, come back a week later and we will discuss. So I went a week later. On my way from home to metro, I found this rowdy bunch of kids which did not look in good spirit, and I feared something foul. I had to be confident. I had to keep on walking, which I did, and just pass by as smoothly as I could without triggering any row. My fear was correct. The children came at me. One of them had a knife and he stabbed me. Only a second later, I recovered from the trauma and I realized it was a plastic knife with a spring and they were playing a prank on me. Incidentally, knife crime and stabbing was at its highest in the northeast of England around that time. And I went back to Sugata and he said that, darling, we found your PhD. So we started the TED experiments, the pedagogy I'd be using in my schools. What is a TED experiment? We started with the most trending, most popular TED Talks, and we took them to the most dysfunctional schools in the northeast of England. Once a week we would go in there, show them a TED video, ask them to Google things up with 2 keywords for about an hour. They are allowed to cheat. They can go to each other's table in a group, no less than 3, no more than 5, and an hour later you come and do a presentation to tell us what you found, because they were 8 or 9-year-olds. We repeated the same experiment in the notified slums of Hyderabad in India. An interesting story. Here's a girl looking at Saturn, and here is a picture. We did a talk by a planetary scientist called Caroline Porco. She's with NASA, and she ran this thing called Mission Cassini to the moon of Saturn. So I introduced this video in the slums of Hyderabad, and I said that, Saturn has got about la la la, and I finished it. I went back quietly to do my observations, and children went on the computer to do their research for about an hour with 2 keywords. And just a few moments later, a child comes to me, grabs my hand, and says, "You're a liar." I was like, what have I done wrong now? And he says that when you introduced this, you said that Saturn has got about 47 moon, but it's wrong. Look what I found. It's got over 60 moon. The largest moon is Titan. It's got a methane lake on the surface of it. And also, Rhea and Titan, they run on a hydrostatic equilibrium. I was like, what just happened? We had bumped into an amazing way of self-learning. And this pedagogy, I took it back to my schools, and since then it's been functioning. If you don't have technology, what do you do? In the rural part of India, the internet was non-existent when I went there. So we said we will try asking questions the other way around. You can frame nice questions. So if I were to ask you, what's the capital of India? The straight answer from you in the audience would be, New Delhi is the capital of India. If I were to ask you, why is Delhi the capital of India? Then I would need different answers. If you look at the map, it is covered by water mostly, surrounding India. On the right, you have mountains. On the left, you have Pakistan, Afghanistan. So if you were to invade India, you would come from the landmass so that you can travel in huge numbers. You have some shelter in the mountains, so you're not completely exposed as an enemy. If you came through water, you are very visible, and you cannot come in huge numbers. So it would make sense to guard your boundaries from where you are most sensitive. This question would then lead you to politics, history, geography, and this is one of the things we taught our teachers to do, that yes, you can have a great lesson plan, but the idea is to frame the right question. Then came assessment. It's all very well to say that all this great learning goes on in the classroom, but what about measuring what you learned? We started having assessments every Saturday. For 25 credits, you will be attempting whatever you learned throughout that week. And in India, if you get 25 out of 25, you are the star, you are the apple of your parents' eyes. But God forbid, if you got 0, I know what happens. What I'm interested in, if you got 15, 18, 21, where did you lose your 4 credits? Where did you lose your 10 credits? We go back, we reconstruct the concept, do remedial teaching, and we test them again. And they do not get to get away until they do 100%. Standardization. It's widely believed that if you have a great head teacher, they can transform one school. But what if you have 50 schools? You need a platform which is ready to take over dysfunctional schools and roll out your intellectual educational model and make it into a Cadmus Sodha school. And then, if you provide great role models to children, what happens? After the transformation, the schools look something like this. Some traditional classrooms, some open classrooms, so you can practice whatever you like in this classroom. This classroom would have on the other side a white smartboard, interactive, connected to a Wi-Fi, so children can Google things up after having explained a lecture, find things for themselves, and also do a presentation at the end of it. All this we provide for $7 to $12 a month, including free books and free uniform. In 2013, the Indiana Jones of Education, Professor James Tooley, came to visit us. And quickly, his first thing was, show me where the schools are. Take me to low-cost private schools. Take me to fishing villages because you're a coastal town. I took him to the poor fishing villages, and he quickly started talking to parents, saying that, is there a good school around? Are you happy with your children's education? One parent said that I complained and complained and complained in a government school about the quality of education. My kid was in class 5 and he couldn't read and write. The head teacher reported me to police and I was behind bars. Professor Tooley was adamant, we will have a Cadmus school here. Within 6 months, we bought the land, we constructed the building, and we were ready to go. And this is what the Cadmus School in Sikka looks like. 6 years later, we have 10 schools, over 7,000 children, and we were rated the 5th best school in Gujarat by Asia's premier digital learning magazine. It took great leadership. It took a precise vision to where we were going to go in the next few years, and it took very efficient change management to hold the hand of your team and take them together with you. My wish is, by the end of 2025, there are total 33 districts in Gujarat to have a Cadmus Sodha school in each one of them. We have a model that is replicable, scalable, and sustainable. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave you with a sense of possibility. Thank you.